should be played at high volume. This should be played at high volume. This should be played at high volume. Preferably in a residential area.
The following thoughts on Hoppe Hour do not represent Cox Media Group or its sponsoring. Anything you hear may and will be used against you. Thank you. Voted as best local podcast in Tampa Bay by the Creative Loafing. You're listening to Hoppe Hour.
What up? What's happening? This is Hoppe Hour. I am your host, Ryan Hoppe, and I'm pretty pumped about this next guest. You can hear her every morning as the co-host of Kevin Klein Live on Live 105 in San Francisco. On the phone line is Allie. How's it going?
I'm good, Ryan. How are you? I feel so weird to be on the other end of this.
I know, that's what a lot of people say, but I'm really pumped to get you on because I found you guys about 2 months ago via iTunes, and I was in kind of a radio drought where I've been working in radio, so I'm sort of burnt out where I don't listen to much talk radio, but I just find you guys intriguing each and every day. I usually listen to the Half Off podcast while I'm at the gym.
Well, that's great. I'm amazed that anybody found us on iTunes. The fact that, we just kind of have to, we don't really have a lot of marketing for our show, so it's funny to hear how other people actually stumble upon it. And I think most people stumble upon it because their presets are broken on their radios and their cars. But to have actually somebody find us on iTunes and actually enjoy what they're hearing is great.
Now, you guys at first didn't have good ratings, and you'll even admit to that. Now, was that because of the show's content and the show wasn't as good, or was that because of the lack of marketing? What was the problem at first?
Well, I think there was a lot of things going on. I think that a lot of people had lost faith in the station and in what they were doing with the mornings. They'd been through a lot of radio shows over the past, 5 years, and it was just kind of a shit show for a while. And then, when we started, we had 3 people. It was me and Kevin and then a comedian named Brad Williams. And so the 3 of us were still kind of getting to know each other, and you're always going to kind of go through that uncomfortable period where you're still, talking over each other or just learning to get to know each other and each other's sense of humor. And so, with any new show, it's going to take time for people to start checking it out and to get used to it. And so, there was a lot of factors there. And I think, when you first hear our show, it can be kind of off-putting for somebody who doesn't really understand our sense of humor yet or doesn't get us yet and thinks that we're offensive because of the things we talk about or the things we joke about. And so, I think even when people called in and we would mess with callers and stuff like that, I think people would be like, what the hell at first and want to hang up and never call again. But now I think people have caught on and learned how to play with us a little bit. And, we didn't really have a lot of marketing for the show. By not a lot, 0. So, we've put in a lot of work to get the word out. And so it's been slow and steady, but, now it seems to be paying off, which is great.
Now, you guys have been on air for 2 years. What was the one part over the last 2 years where you said to yourself, okay, we're now good? Because was there a show or a moment where you knew it was going to work?
Well, I think that, after Brad left, we kind of had to reset a little bit. And it's like almost we had to start over. But I think over the last, I always think that things are going well when it doesn't feel like work. Like it does. It feels just like almost the show is happening on its own and we're just kind of jumping on the train and it's just going. And I felt like in the last, probably 5 to 6 months, it felt a lot more comfortable and just a lot more natural. And I think that we spent probably the last year and a half just building a foundation and building a community that people can be a part of. And then once that finally got bigger, then it started feeling like, we know each other so well at this point. We know our listeners so well at this point. And everything just felt so comfortable. And so I think that's when it started feeling like, okay, we've got a good thing going here. And I would go off the air feeling, way better than when I started and happier and just feeling like a sense of, we have something really special here.
Now, what is it like working with Kevin? Because on air, he's a guy that likes to bust balls. Is that him in real life, or is there a nice side to Kevin Klein?
Well, he would never want me to admit it, but for him, but yes, he does have a nice side. He, I think, actually is nicest to me out of everybody. But I mean, yeah, he's a ball buster. I mean, both of us are really hardworking people naturally, so we always want to find ways to make the show better, and he does challenge us on a daily basis, and he will continue to do that. Like he always asks a lot of his team, and he always strives to make things better and different. And even, we'll pitch ideas, and he'll say, like, all right, how can we make that better? How can we twist it around and make it different? Like, how is it not going to be like what everybody else is doing? And so, yeah, he pushes us, and, he's still really mean to useless weirdo. He always will be. And if he's not happy with something, he'll always say that he's not happy with it. And that always kind of motivates us to make it even better. But he does have a nice side. He does have a heart somewhere in there, deep, deep, deep down.
So how does it feel? You guys were not good at first, but now you're number 118. You guys are doing well in the ratings. Does it feel like you've made it, or do you guys want to keep on grinding?
Oh, yeah, we definitely want to keep on grinding. I mean, this is just, a sparkle, a glimmer of what we really want for the show. And I mean, we got some good news last week about, how he's been doing in recent weeks. And, we were number one in people 18 to 34 and, seeing a huge spike, specifically in men and seeing some really big growth there. But, we've still got work to do. It's like a starting point for us. Like, okay, this is starting to be what our goals, us meeting our goals, but we obviously need to keep the motivation going. We need to keep the momentum going. And so this is just sort of, we're finally starting to see the payoff of working hard and doing something different. And so we, of course, are going to, I think, push harder than ever to make it consistent and make it grow even more and till it gets bigger and bigger.
Now, how do you guys get the show going? Do you come up with prep during the day? Do you guys get there at 4 and do the prep? Because it seems like a show that is very well prepped,
Yeah, I mean, a lot of morning shows, they're on 6 a.m. to 10 or 5 to 10 or whatever it is. And then, 10:01, they're out the door. Sometimes before that, they're even out the door at 9:30. So we're different in the fact that we do pride ourselves on spending a lot of time prepping for our show, because I don't think Kevin or I would be satisfied just doing the same crap every single day and talking about the Kardashians and Taylor Swift and all that shit. I mean, it just makes us want to tear our eyes out of our sockets, just droning on about that kind of thing. And then some people, they are fine just doing their job and talking about the same thing every day and then going home, and we just are not really like that. So as soon as we go off the air at 10, we work on getting our content out online and interacting with people on social media, and then we start prepping for the next show. And at this point, we have, a few ideas that we have tossed around, like at the beginning of the week. Okay, we're going to do this later this week. And we kind of, we start off with a bunch of empty boxes and we just start kind of plugging everything in. And then, we're always looking at, after the show, we're prepping and looking at news and looking at what's going on in the world, trying to find different ways to interpret that and cover it on the air. And so we're there, we work obviously a very full day and then go home and take a couple hours and then kind of get back to it and see what's going on in the world now. And we're prepping throughout the day, in the evening, and then we usually get to the station at around 5, and that's when we kind of start doing our own personal prep, prepping audio and prepping what the stories that we're going to cover and trend and all that stuff. And so and then every week we have meetings where we can pitch fresh ideas and kind of develop those or talk about videos, and we try to come up with cool video ideas that we're going to do every couple of weeks. And so it's we're a small team, so things can kind of fall through the cracks, but we try to get it all done.
What is the key to finding prep and trying to find things to talk about when it's a slow news day? Because I'm in radio, but I'm very young. I'm 22 years old, so I'm trying to figure that out on how to find prep and things to talk about on slow news days. So how do you guys approach it?
Yeah, well, it's tough. I mean, especially with this week and things that have been going on in the world, like a lot of the news that you read, national, horrible travesties going on in the world, and we try to kind of be a show that I guess allows people, yes, we do cover those things, of course, but we also try to provide a little bit of an escape for people who want to have a laugh. And so it is tough to find things on a slow news day. We just have our own sites that we check out. And I mean, that's also when we can kind of rely on our own personal connection and our own segments that we've had prepped in the past. And we kind of rely on those. When it's a slow news day, we just won't cover as much news, and we'll focus more on our show specifically and on each other and that kind of thing. Now,
Useless Weirdo has been radio gold lately. He has been at the top of his game. Did you guys know that Pat would bring
his S game?
Yeah, he's been very awkward lately, and I sort of relate to him because I'm sort of the guy that they use for segments at 102.5 The Bone as well. So what I want to ask you is, how real is that? Everything that goes on with Pat from Traffic.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, all of it's real. And I mean, I'm sure if you're the punching bag on the air, I'm sure it's because that's how you are off the air a little bit too. Like he came on the show. He was a board op when we got, with Live 105, and our boss was like, that guy, he seems useful. Why don't we put him on Traffic for your show? And we're like, all right. And I think the first day that we met him, he ran to Safeway and got us some disinfectant wipes, and that was the most useful thing he had done. And we always talk about how that's the most useful thing he's done for us to date, even 2 years later. But I mean, we started to notice every time we interacted with him that he would just come up with the weirdest shit ever. And it just makes you want to pick his brain, and it makes you want to just ask him about life. It's also something that's so interesting about him is that he is perfectly comfortable just being in his little bubble, like eating his bland peanuts every morning, drinking his Rockstar, not dating, overworking himself, not getting any sleep, but not really wanting to branch out and make new friends or have new experiences. And so that just makes you want to put him in those situations and see how he reacts. And every single time we do that, he delivers in the best way possible. So we just see how far we can go with it. And I mean, I think last year, or maybe it was this year, we always like to see what events are going on in the Bay Area and in the world. And I noticed that they were doing a laughter yoga class in San Francisco. And I was like, maybe it'd be funny to have Patrick go there and just cover the laughter yoga class and maybe do a little, yoga specific comedy to try and help these people with their laughter throughout their poses. And then once we decided to do that, it just it was so bad and so uncomfortable that we knew we had struck gold. And then from that point on, we just figured, all right, his comedy career has begun.
Now, do you think there's a chance that he could be more of a radio person, let's say within the next few years, or will he be the same character throughout the show's run?
I mean, I don't think he's necessarily gotten any less awkward as the 2 years have progressed. So I don't, I mean, it's weird because he's actually on the air on the weekends too. And he does these horribly awkward breaks, in between songs. And it's just super. Like, I think one time he gave out the number to call for the station and he only said half of the number. And so, I mean, he continues to be super weird and awkward off the air, even though he says that he wants to do more than just Traffic and he actually wants to be a radio personality and all that stuff. I just think that he's always going to be Tim and he's always going to be awkward. And I think that, but he continues to think that he's like bombing every day, and he is, but he's like, oh my God, that was so bad. And we're like, I know, but that's what's great about it. But I don't know if he feels the same. But I don't think he can change. I think that's just who he is. He's always going to be that guy.
Now, even though that you guys bust each other's balls, you guys come off like friends. So do you guys ever hang out on the weekend to try and think about what to talk about?
No, I mean, we see each other. I mean, especially Kevin and I, we are talking for 4 hours every single day. And it's not that we talk all the time off the air and when we're home or whatever, if we have to chat. And we went out to dinner last week. And so we try to I mean, just keep in touch, obviously. But Kevin's real busy. He's got a baby on the way. And, we've kind of all got our own stuff that we're doing. And, our producer, Dead Eyes, was moving. And so we were all kind of just trying. I mean, we spend so much time on the show, so much more time on the show than other morning shows do. And so when we have our personal time, we try and spend it with, friends and family and get all the other crap done that we need to just be regular life people.
What are some things that you like to do in your free time so that you don't burn out? I mean, you live in the Bay Area, which is a very fun area. So what are some things you like to do so that you're not always burning out,
Yeah, well, it's tough because, we do spend so much time on the show that even just finding things to talk about for the next day, you can just drive yourself crazy staring at a screen and then trying to think of things. And then you do feel sometimes like you're creatively tapped out because you're staring at a screen for so long and you're in a studio for so many hours, not moving and just sitting there. And so you do really, we both just had to, all of us just we have to make time for ourselves to either do nothing or go out into the world and try and have some kind of life experience, because that's also what makes, more things to talk about the next day is when you actually go out and experience life. So, I like to, the other night I went to a Warriors viewing party, which everyone gave me shit about. I'm not supposed to be watching the playoffs because they lose every time I watch. But, I try to go out for drinks and dinner with friends or just sit there and watch a movie and zone out or, lay by the pool if the weather's nice, which it never is. Try and get some exercise, go out for a run. Any of that stuff I can try and do. My girlfriend and I are long distance right now. Otherwise, she'd be up here and we'd be probably doing a lot more fun stuff. But I get kind of boring. All I want to do is sit here and watch Bob Ross show.
How can you watch Bob Ross? I tried watching that. Oh, it's so boring, Allie. I swear to God.
No, it's not. It's awesome because, Ryan, you watch that show and you have zero thoughts in your brain because all you're doing is watching a man paint a bush, paint a waterfall. There's no other it's like sort of the equivalent of being high because you're just watching this man in 22 minutes paint this landscape and make you just feel like you're made of Jell-O.
Well, isn't it where you have to watch it while you're high? Do you smoke a bowl and then watch Bob Ross, or can you watch it sober?
Oh, you can absolutely watch it sober. I encourage watching anything high as well as sober because I think there's obviously a difference. It'll make things a lot more entertaining no matter what you're watching. But no, I will totally watch. Last week I slept great because I would just watch a couple episodes of Bob Ross and be like, well, that's all I need. I don't need a glass of wine. I don't need to smoke a bowl. All I need to do is just watch Bob Ross. And that guy had actually a horrible life.
Really? That sucks.
Yeah, he was in the military and he would scream at people. He was a master commander and he would yell at people to clean bathrooms every day for 20 years. And then he was like, I'm never going to scream at anybody again. So then he just grew an afro and ended up doing this show, which he never got paid for. And then he died of cancer when he was 50 years old. So sad. But he was so happy on the show and his bushes were so happy.
Now, what I want to ask you is, how often do you smoke weed? Because it's sort of a joke on the air, and obviously the Bay Area is known for its weed. So how often do you and the rest of the show smoke a bowl or a blunt?
Well, I'm probably I probably smoke the most of everybody. Dead Eyes, I know, doesn't. Patrick, he's so weird at his body is a temple, so he doesn't really smoke he drinks every once in a while, but Kevin, I don't think does so much anymore just because he's got, a pregnant wife and he can't just be sitting around getting stoned anymore. But I don't smoke as much as I used to. When I was in high school and in college, I was a daily smoker. Especially in college itself, I was one of those people who was just stoned all the time, which was not great now that I look back on it. But now that I've gotten a little older, I can't, it makes me tired now.
Yeah.
If I smoke a lot during the week, I wake up and I feel a lot more I sort of get these weed hangovers that suck. And so, I'll smoke a little bit throughout the week, maybe once or twice a week, just not a lot though. And then on the weekends, I'll partake a lot more.
Is weed how you come up with some of the prep for the show, would you say?
I think that you can get some real weird thoughts when you're under the influence of weed. Absolutely. I mean, anything you can do to let your mind wander. I think that weed's not for everybody. I think some people it just makes them paranoid or just makes them want to go to sleep. But for me, if I do kind of catch the right buzz, I mean, I'll get some new ideas that I wouldn't have thought of otherwise. And I consider myself to be sort of an anxious person most of the time. So it's a way to kind of balance out and take the edge off. And it actually does help with my anxiety and it helps me sleep and that kind of thing. So it does help relax me. And then if I'm relaxed, then I can kind of just let thoughts, pop in or out. And sometimes they're awful and sometimes they're not bad. And then I'll write them down and then I'll wake up in the morning and be like, what the hell was that?
Now, we all know that Kevin Klein worked for the Playboy morning show. We know he worked for MTV, that he's been on Loveline, so he has a radio past. How did you get into radio, Allie?
Well, I actually sort of got into it through Playboy Radio as well. I was, living in LA for a little bit, and I was just doing. I mean, my background's mostly in sketch comedy and improv and theater and like some other, video stuff. But my buddies and I were just kind of making sketch videos just for fun, and I found this Playboy playmate who had the same name as me. Her name was Allie Johnson, and every time I Googled my name, not like I Googled my name a lot, but I remember Googling my name one time, and her video on YouTube came up before mine did, and I was so angry about it. And so we decided to make a spoof video where I was auditioning to be the next Playboy playmate, and it ended up being kind of a funny little video, and then the guy I was doing the video with was like, "Oh, you should send it over to Playboy." And I was like, "Oh, I guess I could try that." And newsflash, it's real easy to find the casting director of Playboy. So I sent it over to him, and just didn't even think anything of it. And then I think a few days later, they said, "Oh, we wanted to set up an a meeting with you." I was like, well, I'm not like an actual playmate, right? And they were like, "Oh yeah, you could just come in." And it's so weird because when I got there, like there were other actual playmates that were auditioning to be like a part of Playboy, and they were all like scantily clad, like women filling out applications, and I was there like, what the hell is going on? And then I walked in for the interview, and it was like a photo shoot was set up, and I was like, this is not like what I'm here for. And they were like, nah, this is just standard. Like we take these pictures of you. And I was like, okay. And so I took a couple pictures, and then I ended up talking to the guy who's the head of Playboy Radio. And he was like, we're looking for content for our podcast. We're looking for, more podcasts to put on our Playboy Radio network. And would you and your friend want to do a podcast? And I was like, I guess so, yeah. And I had some ideas of things that I wanted to do. And so I started doing that. And that was kind of my first glimpse into the world of radio or podcasting. And so I was doing that for a few months. And it just so happened that Kevin was working on the Playboy Morning Show and was going to be leaving and was going to be taking on a job starting a new morning show in the Bay Area. And he wanted a new team, and he wanted some fresh faces and fresh voices that weren't necessarily in the industry and didn't have kind of those old hacky radio habits. And so he was looking around for people that he thought was interesting, and for some reason he thought I was interesting, even though I didn't know what the hell I was doing on that podcast. But anyway, he called me, and we met a couple of times, and I guess he was like, "Oh, I've already sent your stuff over to Live 105. I was like, "What?" And so then that's just how it started. And, so when I got to Live 105, I had absolutely no experience in the radio world. I had never seen a board before. I had never, known anything about ratings or anything like that. So it was a brand new world. And I've learned a lot in the last 2 years, and it's been really fun. I love live radio. I love that it's such a different form of comedy, but a lot of it can be attributed to the things that I have worked with in the past, like improv and writing and that kind of thing. But I love the live aspect of it. I love that you can talk about something, and then right then somebody's calling or somebody's texting, or there's an update online as to, the further development of a story that you were talking about. And that kind of thing. So I love the immediacy of it, and I love that it's different every day.
Now, where do you want to see the Kevin Klein Live morning show within the next few years? Would you guys want to be in different towns like the Bay Area? Do you just want to be in the Bay Area? How do you guys see this playing out?
Well, I mean, I'm born and raised in the Bay Area, so I always will have a connection with the Bay Area, and it's easy for me in that way because I've known this town for so long, and I've seen it change over the years, and so and we are a very Bay-centric show, but I do think that we would want to be in other places, of course. I mean, and I have no doubt that Kevin and I could reach audiences beyond just the Bay Area. I mean, obviously people have, like you listen in another part of the country, and, people all the time say, I listen to your podcast, I'm in Idaho or wherever. And so I don't think that you need to be in the Bay Area to appreciate the show. And of course we would want to be anywhere that people are willing to listen to us.
Now, where can people find the show online, or if they're in the Bay Area and they want to listen in the morning?
Well, if you want to listen in the morning and you're in the Bay Area, you can tune into Live 105. And if you aren't near a radio, you can listen live on the radio.com app, which I've heard is horrible, but it's got the show if you want to have our breaks be interrupted by commercials. And then there's the TuneIn app, which you can also listen on that live. And then for anybody who cannot listen live, we have our show available on the Kevin Klein Live podcast, which is available on iTunes or anywhere that podcasts can be found. And then you can also go to the Live 105 website to find a way to listen, or you can go to our website, which is kevinkleinlive.com, and you can either download the podcast or listen live from there.
Well, keep up the good work. I listen every day when I'm at the gym, and I just love the real...
I feel like our show would be so unmotivating at the gym, but that's
I don't know. You guys are just real laid back. So many shows, like you said, talk about Kim K and talk about the award show. And I just love that you guys don't have to give out the dirt of everything going on with Kim. And it's a really laid back show. So keep up the good work. I see big things with it.
Thanks, man, and good luck with your podcast as well. I got to check it out a little bit, and it sounds like you're doing some really fun stuff. Cool.
Thank you so much. Have a good day, Allie.
All right, you too. Thanks, Ryan.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Now, if you're a fan of the Kevin Klein Live morning show on Live 105 and you want to hear more of Hoppe Hour, it's not hard. It's not rocket science. All you have to do is get my app in the Google Play and iPhone shop. Search up Hoppe Radio, and you can listen anywhere in the world. I've had over 150 interviews since last July, so I'm very, very pumped about that. Also, go to my Twitter account at Ryan Hoppe Radio and check out my website, ryanhopperadio.com, and email me, ryanhopperadio@gmail.com. This has been Hoppe Hour. I am your host, Ryan Hoppe, saying peace out.
Hoppe Hour. Hoppe Hour.